Hello, Asia, and hello, world. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Election Observer podcast. This episode is co produced with the interns under the Global Service Internship Program of Tamkang University in Taiwan. With me today as co host is one of our interns, Omar. Hi, Omar. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, John. Thank you for having me. Hello, my name is Omar. I'm a sophomore student in Tamkang University, major in global politics and economics. I'm here co-hosting as an Anfield and intern.
Okay, welcome to the Election Observer podcast, Omar. No? For today's episode, we'll discuss the issues and challenges ahead of the upcoming House of Councillor elections in Japan and how they affect the overall health of democracy in the country. As you know, Japan will hold elections for the House of Councillors on July 20, 2025. House of Councillors is composed of 248 members with 6-year terms, where half of the members are elected every 3 years. Japan's electoral laws have been found to be generally fair and well enforced, with the campaigning heavily regulated. There are, however, electoral issues that need to be addressed, including low voter turnout, malapportionment, gender gap in representation, increasing public trust on the government due to corruption, and overall dissatisfaction with the state of democracy.
So, Pew Research Center, in a survey of 1,003 Japanese adults from 5th of January to 9th March 2024, found that there is widespread dissatisfaction with democracy, with only a third of Japanese adults saying they are satisfied with the way democracy is working in their country.
Mhm.
The survey found that there is low party enthusiasm, which could be related to low voter turnout. In the 2024 House of Representative election, the voter turnout was 53.85%, while in the last House of Councillor election in 2022, the voter turnout was 52.04%.
Mhm.
In Japan, 73 out of 465, which is 15.7% members in the House of Representative, and 61 of 239, which is 25.5% members of the House of Councillors are women. While the number of women members of the lower house was a record number for Japan,
Mhm.
it was still below the global average of 27%. Women continue to face sexual harassment during campaigns and at work. The recent political financing scandal of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party has contributed to the public dissatisfaction with the current government, raising concerns about the effectiveness of safeguards against corruption.
Joining us today to share insights about the elections and the state of democracy in Japan are Professor Hiroaki Shiga of Yokohama National University in Japan.
And also Professor Tsai Hsi-Hsun of Tamkang University in Taiwan.
Hello, Professor Hiroaki and Professor Tsai. Welcome to the Election Observer podcast.
Hello, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to a very meaningful, important occasion. So it is my great pleasure to be with you again.
Thank you,
Okay, thank you.
Professor. Yes. So we can go to our first question, no? As I've mentioned, Japan will head to the polls on July 20 to elect members of the House of Councillors. So we wanted to know, what do you think are the emerging issues and challenges in the upcoming elections?
Okay, shall I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So the biggest issue or biggest challenge in the upcoming election is the rise of far-right xenophobic populism.
Mhm.
So quite unfortunately now, jingoistic and xenophobic rhetoric is widely used in the election campaigns.
Mhm.
So I would say that it is no longer a fringe activity. It is increasingly visible through mainstream campaigning and social media.
Mhm.
And the most vivid illustration of this trend, worrisome development, is the rise of Sanseito. Sanseito is the name of the party. And this party is relatively a new party. And it is now campaigning with the slogan rhetoric of Japanese first, which is quite similar to America first by Mr. Trump. And
Mhm.
they are coming up to the voters with a strongly anti-immigration stances. And it is now clearly explicitly calls for the introduction of the royalty checks for foreigners or curbing foreigners' access to welfare and public services. And according to the latest opinion poll, Sansei-to suddenly rose to the third place in its popularity, only after the LDP. As you know, it is the ruling party, and the Constitutional Democratic Party. This is the biggest opposition party. And now populism is amplified by the online figures called Netto Uyoku. Netto Uyoku is a Japanese version of digital alt-right. Have spread anti-Korean, anti-Japanese, anti-left, misogynic content via social media for decades. And in response to the rise of Sansei-to, mainstream parties are also adopting very xenophobic or populistic platforms. So the LDP or Komeito or the Ishin no Kai is the Japanese reformist party, all include tougher immigration policies in their platforms in a hasty manner to address the illegal foreigner issues, the 外国人問題. And what I fear is firstly the normalization of hate speech. So discriminatory and dehumanizing rhetoric, language against foreigners is increasingly becoming the steady reality of Japanese political life. This is the one point. And secondly, I fear that the far-right populist parties could influence the actual policy making and actual policy implementation if the ruling coalition of LDP and Komeito would lose their majority in the upcoming election, in addition to their loss of majority in the lower house in the election last year. And lastly, I fear the erosion of social cohesion in Japan. Of course, xenophobia alienates foreign residents, and it would surely undermine the health of Japanese democracy. So, in conclusion, I would argue that this election could mark a turning point for Japanese democracy, either enhancing populism, xenophobia, or fighting against it. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. How about you, Professor Tsai?
I think 50% is the key point because the LDP must win the 50% with the Komeito. Otherwise, they already lost the power, always lost the majority in the representative house. So this time they must keep the 50% because they will have an election 3 years. 3 years, so they must combine the next one. So then on the first one, the second one, because this year is the 80 years after World War II. The World War II was ended in 1945, August 15. So it's must be the 80 years. So the key issue, I will say 2 points. The first one is the economy. The second one must be the security. Economy is the simple one. The opposition parties say we must lower down the consumption tax from the 10% to the 0%. For example, they can to say maybe 1 year or 2 years, at least 2 years for the 0% because the price. The inflation is too serious. The Japanese people, they cannot buy, they cannot enjoy the good life. So let's cut the consumption tax to the 0%. But the LDP say we cannot cut the consumption tax because if we cut the consumption tax, we will lose the finance. Because we use the consumption tax to support the social security. If we cut it, we will lose everything. We lose money. So they say we are going to give each person for 10,000 Japanese yen. But 10,000 Japanese yen for the opposition party, they say this 10,000 Japanese yen is only for the election. It's not good for our country. So I think economy is simple one must be the consumption tax or the 10,000 the price for the food for the I think the food the typical example is the price rice because from this year until this year Japan's price rice is too expensive. So that's why the new minister is called Koizumi Shinjiro. Shinjiro just release security the rights for the government, release almost every ton of the rice to the people. So they already cut the price of the rice. So they are now around 3,000 Japanese yen. But just as I said, because this year is 80 years after World War II, I think the security is really important because the Trump say the NATO already promised to raise the defense budget from the 2% to 3.5% plus inflation infrastructure for 1.5%. Total is the 5%. So how about Japan? Japan, you must raise your defense budget because in Japan, you must say the defense budget, not the national defense. So defense budget must be from the 2% to raise to the 3.5%. Of course, the Japan's prime minister or Japanese Naikaku, the Hayashi say we decide how much budget by ourselves, not by the foreigner. Yes, this one is the political language. Why is the political language? Because the election is coming, so they can listen to the foreign. Otherwise, they will lose the election. But how about the 2% to the 3.5%? We must say that 2022 must be the December about 16. They pass the cabinet and they will raise the budget from about 0.93 or 0.95 to 2027 fiscal year to the 2%. So now Japan just say we are going to raise the budget to the 2% in 2027. And we already spent so much money. But the Trump say, okay, maybe now we didn't talk about the number. So after the election, maybe I think they will argue about the 3.5%. But to the opposition party or to the include the LDP party, they have a common sense. What is the common sense? Even they don't talk about the number, but they say we must protect our country by ourselves. We must strengthen self-defense force. Otherwise, we will face serious problems. For example, this week, Japan just published a new self-defense defense white paper. And the white paper just say, I'm so concerned. I'm concerned about mainland China. So to strengthen the defense capability is the common sense, and no matter is the ruling party, for example, is the LDP or the Komeito, include the opposition party, Nikkei Minshuto, of course, include the Kokumin Minshuto. So I think security is a key point, but even number is not a key point, but they say how to protect your country. So that's why, in Japan, they will have the manifesto. Japan is a good country because each party they have a manifesto. The manifesto will say what kind of policy our party is chasing. For example, the cover of LDP, they say we are going to become a responsible country. The same one. So security and economy must be the two big issues.
I see. Before we move to the next question, I wanted to just follow up with Professor Hiroaki because you've mentioned about the rise of hate speech and populist policies in the campaigning of candidates. Is this quite a new trend, or has this been happening in Japan before? And how does the electorate resonate or respond to these kinds of campaigning?
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for asking a very good question. So the usage of the xenophobic or jingoistic language in the election campaign is not quite new. We observed that trend nearly 20 years ago when we started to sense the rise of China, the deteriorating Japanese economic status, deteriorating international position. So there was a kind of frustration. So it ignited the steady rise of nationalism. But when it comes to the election campaign, it was so marginalized, and voter support was not so strong. But what we are witnessing is a very rapid rise of popularity of such uh, xenophobic, uh, nationalist, excessively nationalistic language in the national election campaign. And what is so surprising for us is that now Sanseito jumped up to the third places only after LDP and Constitutional Democratic Party in its popularity. So it means that more and more Japanese ordinary voters are being attracted by the populist language. So that's the reason why I emphasize the importance of watching the trend of nationalistic or populistic rise in Japanese national political scene. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. I know Omar here, my co-host, has some questions for you as well. So please take it away, Omar.
So Japan has recorded low voter turnout in previous election. Why is voter participation and engagement in the elections low?
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for raising another very important issue. So, Japan's consistently low voter turnout, often below 60% or even 50% in national elections, stems, in my idea, mainly from the LDP's one-party dominance for a long time. As you know, the LDP has held power almost continuously since 1955, not 1995. So this has created a sense of inevitability among Japanese voters, and which weakens the perceived efficacy of voting. And especially after the burst of the so-called bubble economy at the beginning of the 1990s, Japan fell into a long economic stagnation for over 30 years, quite up until now. And during those 30 years, there were two changes of government. So LDP lost power for two times. But opposition parties that replaced the LDP failed to produce results on the ground. So this created or this exacerbated the sense of apathy among the voters, as people feel that, oh, regardless of who wins, which party wins, well, nothing will really change. That is a kind of voter apathy that was strengthened. And the worrisome thing is that this voter apathy is especially widespread among young generations. So surveys shows that many young people feel unfamiliar with politics or see they regard election as something irrelevant to their daily life. What they feel disengaged from the political system that appears controlled by far remote political elites in Tokyo, in Kasumigaseki, in Nagatacho, and unresponsive to their concerns. But recently, as you know, Japan LDP's one-party dominance is now weakening. So, if the existing political structure become more fluid, then we can expect that it would attract more voters' attention and it would raise the voter turnout. Okay, that is my comment.
How about you, Professor Tsai?
I think, for example, for the young person just think about it. If I just go to the election, I vote for somebody. I'm only one person. I cannot change anything. So that's why I'm not going to the election. And this one is the one point. The second one must be the stable society, because Japan is a stable society. No matter which person become the prime minister, because even if it's LDP, they change the prime minister. In Japan, the prime minister is called a generation, not term. A generation, on average, after World War II, one generation about 1.43 years. Before the World War II, about 1.5 years. So one generation is quite short. So no matter which person become the prime minister, the Japan is still stable. But we must say another key point, because Japan had the emperor, because emperor ordered the prime minister to become the prime minister. Otherwise, he cannot become the prime minister. So no matter which person is the prime minister, no matter which party is the ruling party, the most powerful person must be the emperor. So emperor is the center of the whole Japan. So they don't go to the political. So this is a staple. Another one, we must say another keyword is called the middle power. Why is the middle power? Because after World War II, Japan don't care about the political. They don't want to play the political in the whole in the global society. So around 1980 or 1990, they believe the middle power. We chase the economy. We chase the economy. So the political we don't chase so much. That's why I think to the Japanese people, political is not so it's stable. It's not so interesting. It's not it's not like the entertainment. I think this one is the and the LDP. Yes, LDP is some kind of problem. Even then, some kind of problem. But after we say the 55 system because it was founded in 1955. So it's called LTP, is the 55 system. But the LTP, the biggest job is to revise the constitution. No, it's the biggest goal. But until now, they didn't achieve this goal. So to the Japanese people, and I must say another one, which person, what kind of person can become the politician? Because if you want to become a politician, your father or your grandfather is a politician, so he or she will pass this position to you. So to the normal people, a party is a party. We don't care about it's not our daily life.
Okay. Before Omar asks his next question, I wanted to jump to one of the questions that we have sent to you because this is something related to what you've mentioned. As you both said, the ruling Liberal Democratic Party has held power in Japan for quite a number of years already. And in one study that you cited with Pew Research, they said the Liberal Democratic Party has held power in Japan for 65 of the 69 years since the party's founding in 1955. And that it is quite unique because in member states of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, Japan, no party has held power for such a long time as it is in Japan. No? So for my next question, are there avenues for other parties, including independent candidates and possibly young generation? Because you've also mentioned that there is a widespread apathy among the young generation in terms of politics. Is there an opportunity for them to participate and engage in elections, to contest the elections? And do you think there are barriers that they would encounter in engaging in the elections?
Okay. Yeah, can I answer your question
Yes,
first?
please.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Yes, opposition parties or independent candidates do encounter significant barriers in the present political system of Japan. To begin with, they face electoral system biases. So especially the system so-called SMD, single member constituency system in the lower house favors LDP. And also, there is an issue of a kind of gerrymandering or malappointment, in the sense that electoral districts, are sometimes drawn in ways that favor rural areas. So rural areas are overrepresented in the Japanese national diet. And as you know, the rural areas are the strongholds of LDP. So that favors, again, the LDP. And also, the opposition party or independent candidates face the organizational disadvantage. So LDP enjoys entrenched support networks with the bureaucracy, the business community like Keidanren, and numerous local interest groups, which provide fundraising support and mobilization support to the LDP. That is still strong and entrenched. And the other issue is the the problem of the opposing parties. It is an issue of the fragmentation. They frequently experience the splits, the mergers, and they have an ideological diversity, which make them, opposition parties, difficult to formulate the united front against the LDP. So, of course, the electoral reforms are now underway, but of course, LDP is still the ruling party. So, the speed of the reforms that would undermine the power base of LDP should not be implemented. So, I would say that it is very difficult for the opposition party or independent candidates to tackle, to challenge the LDP. But as I have already said, we are now witnessing the erosion of the power base of the LDP. So we should wait and see what will happen in the future. Yeah, that is my
Yes.
comment. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Professor Tsai?
I think one key structure is the one strong, many weak. Because the LDP is a strong party, but how about the opposition party? There are so many opposition party, include Rikken Minshito, include Kokumin Minshito, include Kyosanto, include Sanseito. So many weak person, so many weak party, but they cannot combine together. LDP is one person, and PDP is has a partner. It's called a Komeito. Even Komeito is a small, quite small party, but it's quite stable. So they combine together is quite stable. How about opposition party? We use one example. For example, last year, no party just win become the majority party in the it must be the representative election. For example, Noda, even he is the leader of the Rikken Minshito, he cannot cooperate with the Kokumin Minshito. For example, Tamaki is a representative. If they combine together, they can become the prime minister, but they cannot. So this time, same again. Why is same again? So many ruling party only one. It's called LDP and Komeito. How about opposition party? Too many. So they will raise too many candidates. So too many candidates to against one target. So it's one strong, many weak. Even they want to challenge it, still not so easy.
Okay. Let's move on to Omar's next question.
Okay. So, women remain underrepresented in politics and governance in Japan. Why do you think this is the case, and what are the barriers for improved inclusion of women in politics and governance?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for raising a very important question. So let me illustrate what is happening in Japan. So this year, Japan ranked 125th among 148 countries in the Gender Gap Index, GGI, in terms of the women's political participation. So, as you rightly said, women's underrepresentation in politics and governance in Japan is a deep-rooted issue, and this issue is influenced by a combination of barriers, the cultural, institutional, and political barriers. So, firstly, the traditional gender norms are still very strong in Japanese society, where women are often expected to prioritize domestic responsibilities like caretaking or making the food or making preparing lunch and breakfast, supper, or that kind of things over the professional life. And when it comes to politics, politics is still perceived by many Japanese people as a kind of male domain, the domain only reserved for men, making it difficult for women to gain legitimacy and support in politics. And secondly, the political system is also dominated by entrenched male-dominated networks. It is in Japan. Politics is still consists of old boys club, that kind of thing, and especially within the LDP. So these networks often favor male candidates, and their successors are, of course, male. It is expected to be so, and uh, of course, it would make it harder for newcomers, especially women, to break into that entrenched network dominated by male. And to make things even complicated is that there is virtually no affirmative action measures like a quota system. So it is despite of the fact that Japan has ratified the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. So it is encouraged by the convention to introduce affirmative action measures in order to push the back of women to make a participation in the political scene. But Japanese government and LDP, ruling LDP, of course, it is dominated by men, are so reluctant to introduce such kind of measure. So I believe that affirmative action measures, especially the quota system, which is similar to the system employed in Rwanda or any other countries, should be also introduced in Japan. So that is my opinion. Thank you very much.
Okay. Professor Tsai?
Okay, I use two examples. The first one is the Koro Takaichi Sonai, because next year the LTP is running for the representative of LTP, and if this person is the LTP representative, usually he will become the Japanese prime minister, because next year the number one is Takaichi Sonai. She is female. The second one is the Ishipa. But the number three is the Koizumi Junjiro. Koizumi Junjiro, he is really young. He is quite handsome. He is really popular, but his experience is not so good, and maybe he's too young. That's why at the beginning he is supposed to be the number one, but after about 1 week he just lost his power. But at the going to the second round, the number one, number two, you go to the second round. If nobody just over the 50% become the majority, so Takaichi Sonai is the number one. But on the second round, on the second one, he just lost the power. Even she has a speech, looked like she's going to become the prime minister, but she just lost his election for the LDP, the running. So who will become the first Japanese female prime minister? Because until now, the Japanese prime minister only male, no female. So you can see Japanese female gender is some kind of problem. Second example, I will use the marriage. If one female married with the male, she must change his or her family name to husband name. For example, Sato married with Tanaka, she must change her Sato to become the Tanaka. Of course, now the Japanese government and Japanese LDP and Japanese opposition party just discuss about this one. In the whole world, they say in the whole world, maybe only Japan. If you just got married, you must change your name to your husband. So they understand this kind of situation. But this situation is not only for the politics, also for the economy, also for the company. You can see for the company who will become the chairman, who will become the manager. Not so many. That's why Japanese government just raised one percentage, 30%. 30% in the future, maybe in the 2030, or 30% the female will become the leader. So I will say is their society, but this society, I will say support but prosperity, economic prosperity, because even the male has the power to control this country, because this country economy is really good. So the female will follow their husband, but if her husband just didn't have the good income, why I should listen to you, and why must go to work? So they don't just listen to the husband, and they will go out. So I will say economic prosperity is important. This one, LDP recently, the percentage is not so good. I mean, a percentage, even the percentage is not so good. But until the recent percentage, I will say for the cabinet for the Ishiba will be 31% for the approval. But how about the party? Party, I will say that according to the NHK News, the 24% support the LDP. But how about opposition party? Nikkei Mishuto only 7.8. I must repeat. LDP 24%. Nikkei Mishuto number 2, only 7%. Ishin 3.1%. Kome 3.4%. Kokumin 4.9%. So you can see one strong ruling party, many weak opposition party. So if LDP didn't want to change this kind of structure, it's a little difficult for the gender to become equal. Of course, they understand. Japan, the gender equal, the ranking is not so good. They knew this kind of problem or this kind of issue.
Okay. Let me move on to our next question. No? So, there was a recent scandal with the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, which has eroded public trust in political parties and the government. What reforms do you think are needed to improve transparency in political financing to deter corruption and improve accountability?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for raising another very critically important issue for Japanese politics. Well, as you rightly said, so the LDP scandal exposed the systemic flaw in the Japanese political finance system. So it has many loopholes that enable opaque practices, especially in the faction-based fundraising, and discretionary spending. So what is necessary in order to cope with this? Well, I argue that there are several measures that should be introduced, like the stricter disclosure requirements, such as the full disclosure of the name of the donors or the amount of the money donated, or the stricter limits or even the prohibition of the political donations from big companies, organizations, and individuals. So now the LDP and many opposition parties are making the discussion on that, whether or not the political donation should be prohibited. And also another point is that I believe that enhancing the protection of the whistleblowers in this regard is very important. But in Japan is notorious for the under protection of the whistleblowers in every section of the society. So I think these kind of reform measures should be introduced. But again, the problem is that the LDP is quite reluctant in introducing such measures. But against the background, again, of the eroding dominance of the LDP, we may expect that some even the limited measure for the amelioration would be introduced in the near future. Okay, thank you.
How about you, Professor Tsai?
Transparency, I must say, what is the transparency? How to compare? Which country you are going to compare? This one is one question, because you must compare with another country. For example, compare with the United States or compare with the UK. The second one, I will use some kind of example. The first one, I will use the representative of the Ishinokai, because Ishinokai, one of them is called Maihara. Maihara, because I knew the Maihara for a long time, he used to receive about 200,000 Japanese yen from one grandmother. But this grandmother, because even she lived in Japan for a long time, she didn't get the Japanese passport or the ID. That's why she's still a foreigner. So, but she lived in Japan for a long time, and she already knew the Maihara for a long time. So she just gave him the 200,000 Japanese press release this kind of news, and he resigned. He said, "I'm sorry, because I know her so a long time. She's still a foreigner, so I resigned." And I will use another quick example. If any politician in Japan on the newspaper, some kind, even a really small scandal, you receive, no matter how much money, you will resign. I use another one. For example, before the Koizumi Junjiro, the ex-minister, he just said, "I never buy the rice." This one is language scandal, or he lost his mouth. He also resigned. So what is the transparency? You must compare with another question or some kind of country. But I think the scandal you will say about secret money. But this one, the secret money is legal money, but they didn't keep the money on the booking. They just didn't keep the money on the booking. So they say, okay, we dissolve. Ex-prime minister is called Kishida. Kishida said, okay, let's dissolve the Maehara party. Let's dissolve the Kishida party, Mori party. So I think to the Japan, the transparency is really, really good because now they are running for the election. Even you are ruling party or you are opposition party, you cannot hire too many person. The person must be volunteer to help you. You cannot give this person or this person too much money. So to them, it's really, the law is really difficult. So transparency. And how about the donation? Donation, yes, the ruling party say we use open transparency. Each person can come here to check our booking. We must open it. But of course, the opposition parties say, no, the company cannot donate the money. But the LDP say, okay, yeah, but they are a company. Company is still, like the human. They must have some kind of right to donate the money. Donate the money is legal, but we must open it. They say, how about Mr. Trump? The Mr. Trump, the Tesla, the chairman, Mr. Chairman, just donate. I'm not so sure how much money, maybe 1 billion, or 2 billion, or 100 billion to the Mr. Trump. And next year he said, I'm going to raise another party. How about the United States? So the ruling party say transparency is important. We just open the book is important. So I will repeat again. If you got the money, no matter is 10,000 or the 200,000, you didn't just released by the press, you will lose your position. You must resign. So to Japan, transparency now I will say compare with another country, compare with the United States, is really high.
I just wanted to add to the responses that we've got from the two of you. Of course, the reason why we asked about political financing is that money in politics is quite important. It really influences how the game is played in terms of elections and possibly how those who are elected in power would use or how they would be influenced by these kinds of donations. So of course, I agree that there has to be transparency in terms of who donates to these political parties, how much they donate, possibly also limit the amount of donations because you've cited as an example what happened in the US in that one particular company donated so much money to this particular candidate who must not be named that he had a way with things in how the government is run and possibly government contracts as well, right? So that influences not just the election turnout, but also possibly how governments are governed. So it is important there is transparency and accountability in terms of political financing. So yes, thank you for those responses. No, let me move on to Omar's next question.
So there has been an overall global democratic backsliding recorded in recent years. Amid the declining public trust on relevant institutions in Japan, how should Japan navigate the public sentiment and gain the public's trust in democracy?
Yeah, that is a grave issue that we should consider. And I would say that Japanese long believed that, oh, we are relatively immune from populism that were rising in the United States or many European countries, be it Germany, be it the Netherlands, and so on and so forth. But as I emphasized, now we are witnessing the rise of populism. Of course, it has not dominated the whole political scene, but still we are now witnessing the steady but incremental rise of the populistic sentiment among Japanese people. So, looking back the history, the xenophobia, racism, jingoistic nationalism easily allow the rise of authoritarianism. So that is a lesson from the history. So looking at the current rise of xenophobia in xenophobic populism in Japan, I must say that democracy in Japan is at a very critical turning point, I would say. Maybe it's an exaggeration, but I hope it is not. I hope it is the case, but so I have to be attentive on. We have to be attentive on that issue. And in this sense, it is very important for the Japanese government to make clear that it will never tolerate discrimination and racism. And in this regard, I just would like to raise attention of everybody. It has been 30 years since Japan joined the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. But Japanese government has not enacted anti-discrimination law that the convention requires the signatory, including Japan, to enact. So the argument of the Japanese government is that, oh, we have to protect the freedom of speech. It is constitutionally entrenched right. So if we adopt, if we enact the anti-discrimination law, it would infringe on the exercise of the freedom of speech. But it seems to be it is nothing more than an excuse because Japanese the LDP is so reluctant to introduce that law. So I believe it is high time for Japanese government to enact such laws in order to demonstrate that Japanese government, Japanese people would never tolerate intolerance or elimination, the discrimination against the foreign people. Yeah, that is my big point. Yeah.
Professor Tsai?
Okay, I think the key word is called a grand strategy. Because democracy is the afterword to the GHQ Makasa journal just teach the Japanese people this one is the democracy. But what is the grand strategy? I will say the number 3 grand strategy. The Tokugawa Ieyasu in around the 1600. Actually, it's 14, 16, 15. I will say 1600. He already united the whole Japan. And after the 1616, he just passed away. Japan just enjoyed peace and prosperity more than 260 years. It's called Edo. But how about the Brexit 1853? The Brexit just went to Japan, so Japan chose the open the door, and the 15th generation, Tokugawa, the 15th generation, just say, I want to return the power to the emperor. So emperor, before the emperor, we say the Tokugawa is called Buke Seike. Buke Seike means the samurai control the whole country. But after the Meiji, we will say the first grand strategy. They just transform to the first Asia modern country, then from the Europe, then from the America, and become the super country and become the imperialism. Of course, their economy is really strong. So the first great strategy. But democracy is the second one. After the World War II, just as I said, the GHQ Makasa just went to the Japan and write the constitution to Japan announced in 1946. Must be the November 3rd. In egg must be the 1947 May 3rd. So until now, they enjoy the prosperity, peaceful life. They enjoy the democracy for about 80 years. This one is the second grand strategy. Japan always say we are going to make new Japan. New Japan is not a new world. In the Meiji, in the Constitution, they also use the new Japan. But how about election? You can see no matter which party, ruling party, opposition party, they will say we are going to make a new Japan. So I will say grand strategy. The ruling party must say, or opposition party, their manifesto must say our country is going to this way. So the people will follow them. If you have time, you can check the poster of the ruling party. No matter is the and then we use LDP or opposition party, Kokumi Minshito, the poster. The poster is the Ishibashi his eyes 45-degree, look on the sky, raise his hand. It means I told my people our future is over there. Opposition party also say or use the same poster. So I must say what is the new Japan? Because this year is the 80 years after World War II. They must transform. What is the new one? No matter is you want to transform, or we will say the foreign pressure is called the Gaiatsu. Gaiatsu, the Brexit is a Gaiatsu. GHQ is also Gaiatsu. Now Trump is also a new Gaiatsu. So Japan is going to transform to a new one. If they have this one, the people will follow. It's Japan style democracy. I think so.
Okay. I just wanted to add as well, no, because earlier the both of you have had references to some of the things that are happening in Japan that are quite similar to other countries, like particularly in the U.S. and what's happening in the, under the Trump administration. So I agree that of course there are no country that is immune to democratic backsliding. It's important to be able to reflect on what's happening in your countries and to also institutionalize upholding rights and freedoms. No, which brings me to my next question, and this is our last question for this episode. The role of independent election observers and monitors is, of course, vital in ensuring electoral integrity and demonstrates openness to scrutiny, transparency, and accountability on the part of election management bodies and other election authorities. No? Is there a mechanism that would allow independent election observers and monitors in Japan? And how can they contribute to the democratic growth of Japan amid the decline of public's trust in democracy? Professor Hiroaki, I think you're muted.
I'm very sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for raising another very important question. And my personal experience of joining the international observation mission tells me that it is a very good opportunity it is a opportunity for mutual learning. So I strongly believe in the merit of the international election observation, but I hesitate to say that I don't think there's a mechanism that would allow independent election observers to monitor Japanese election. Yeah, so it is partly because that many Japanese people still believe that I hesitate to say, but Japan is on the side of dispatching election observers, not on the side of being monitored. Yeah, so that is one reason. So still, the Japanese are still arrogant. We still tend to believe that we are big country, we are advanced country, and that kind of thing. Yeah, so it is. I would say that with a very a great hesitation, but we are again. Let me emphasize that now we are witnessing the rise of populism in Japan, as well as in the United States and in Europe. So it is vitally important to make the world aware of the results on the ground, what is actually happening in Japanese political scene through the report of international election observers. So I think it is vitally necessary that if world people in the world should know the reality of Japanese politics, be it good thing or bad thing, especially with the emphasis on the bad development. Okay, that is my the opinion.
Professor Tsai.
I will give some kind of a suggestion. Of course, you can watch the Japanese TV because Japanese TV has some kind of political show. For example, Fuji TV. If you just go to the Japan, I will suggest maybe you can go to the Foreign Press Center. They have some kind of for English information. But Japanese the election will believe Jiban Kanban Kaban. Because Jiban means your location, your heritage, your support, it means your Jiban. Kanban means your name, what kind of ruling party, what kind of your your supporter, or which one you belong to, and maybe you kabang. Kabang means you must walk around. But I will say understand Japanese style expression. Japanese style expression is the Japan style. For example, when they make speech, they will not stand on the high side. They will stand on the beer case. It means I am equal with you. So try to understand their expression. If you got their trust, they will teach you so many things. But if you don't get their trust, in each country the same one, they don't tell you, only tell you the official language, not the details. So I will suggest you to use the Japanese language to talk with them because foreigner. Of course, the foreigner will say, okay, let's go to Japan, let's make some kind of interview. We can use the English one, it's the easy one. But English one is only official. Official language means I will tell you the official one. So if you want to monitor it, just go to the countryside. Just go to. Of course, you can interview for the candidate. They will teach you so many. But I will suggest you learn small Japanese one. It's better for you to communicate. Of course, sometimes I'm not so sure it's good, but I enjoy. Sometimes I enjoy drinking. And drinking communication is also a good style. Drink, I don't say it's good one, but it's a global standard. It's the drinking communication.
I see. I guess the entry for international observers is to have like a night of drinking with locals so that they better understand the situation. No? But of course, as you know, we've worked with Professor Hiroaki before in the election of observation of elections in Sri Lanka, and I think to convince Japan to allow observers, we should invite more Japanese in our international election observers so that they see the
Yeah,
value
yeah,
in it, ano?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay. Yes. So that was our last question. Thank you very much for joining us in this afternoon's discussion. It's very insightful. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We would
Thank
have
you.
to hide you from the stream so that we can close the show formally. But thank you again, Professor Hiroaki and Professor Tsai, for joining us in this afternoon's discussion.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay,
Okay,
hope
Thank
to
thank
see
you.
you. Thank you.
See
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Yes, and again, thank you to Professor Hiroaki and Professor Tsai for joining us today. That has been the Election Observer podcast episode on elections and the state of democracy in Japan.
Get the latest news and updates about Anfield programs and activities through our Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok pages. You can also subscribe to our YouTube and WhatsApp channel. Please follow the Election Observer podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Okay, before we close the show, I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
Omar, no, how was your experience co-hosting the podcast?
Yes, it's really interesting for me because this is my first time co-hosting a podcast.
Uh-huh.
The whole process is so different from like what I thought I already knew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of new for me. It's interesting.
Okay, so thank you for joining us again today. I'm your host, John Antiquero, with Omar of Tamkang University in Taiwan. We'd like to give a shout out, of course, to Omar's co-interns,
Just
Jay, Danny, and William, who worked with us to make this episode possible. Have a great day,
Have a
everyone.
great day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.